ठीक है, ऑल राइट, गुड मॉर्निंग एवरीवन। सामने वाले तो जोर से बोले, उनको सुनाएंगे। यस, चलिए, लेट्स बिगिन स्टूडेंट्स। इन द लास्ट क्लास we had been speaking about ancient India. Yes, in ancient India we know that there are multiple ages that has been experienced by our country. In that context, the first age that we had discussed was the Stone Age. Stone Age is divided into 3 time periods, which is Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic. What is the importance of the Neolithic period? Agriculture, domestication of plants has begun. Is it something that can be seen all over Indian subcontinent? No, it has started at certain parts and gradually the knowledge will transfer, and this gradual transfer is something that takes a lot of years, especially in the historical period, to gradually transform the society. ठीक है, इसके बाद में हमने देखा कि which is the first metal that we had started exploiting, students? It was copper. Good morning everyone. Yes, so which was the metal that we had started exploiting? It was copper. And apart from that, we see that the age which will succeed your Stone Age will be Bronze Age. Bronze Age, 2 terms I have told you. No, 2 defining features of Bronze Age. First, urbanization, and it corresponds to which time period? Indus Valley civilization. Okay. Keeping that in mind, students, when I say it's first urbanization, what are the 2 aspects that is something which you witness during the first urbanization? We have planned cities and then we have trade. If I say that we were doing long distance trade, okay, if I ask you that we were doing long distance trade, would your answer be yes or no? How do you know? Mesopotamian inscriptions, what do they tell us? Seals were discovered there. Okay, that is one thing. What else? How do you know? Yes. Sorry? But how do you know? What is the information that we have? Sorry? Correct. We find a term that the Mesopotamians were trading. Exactly, Mohammed is correct. We have been trading with Meluha, and Meluha is identified with Indus. And in between we are told names of 2 trading stations, intermediary trading stations, which is Dilmun and Makan. ठीक है, करेक्ट आंसर की तरफ जाना है. अगर तुम लोग ऐसे हर चीज को हर चीज से कनेक्ट करोगे तो आपके थ्योरेटिकल आंसर में तो गॉड नोस आप क्या लिख के आओगे. Specifically, how do you know that we are trading with the Mesopotamians? Because we have deciphered Mesopotamian inscriptions which tell us that there are people of Meluha with whom we are trading. That's it. Okay? Crisp, to the point baat karni hai. All right. Apart from that, students, if I talk about the sculptures of the Harappan civilization, do you think they reflect or they give us any understanding of the religious practices and beliefs? How do you know? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, सबसे पहले तो मुझे बताओ जनरल में कि व्हाट वर वी वर्शिपिंग? रॉन्ग. ठीक से पहले मैंने बोला जिस्ट बताओ. एनिमल्स, प्लांट्स, मेल एंड फीमेल डेटी. ओके, सो यस प्लीज. ओके, Shiv, this is your first class. You have missed the other 2 lectures. They are available on YouTube as well. Kindly have a look through that. And if you have any doubts, feel free to talk after class. PPT, I'll give it today. Okay, I'm still in the typing process. Kindly give me time till today. I will give the PPT. Okay. So, when I say religious practices, सबसे पहले क्या बोलोगे? That the Harappans used to worship plants, animals, males and female deity. फिर उसके बाद में एग्जाम्पल देना शुरू करोगे. आपको प्रोसेस की तरह जब बोलने में आएगा तभी लिखने में आएगा. अगर तुम रैंडमली हाँ पशुपति है, हाँ मदर गॉडेस है, तो तुम लोग इसको पेपर पे कैसे उतारोगे? इट विल बी अ वेरी हेवाई थिंग ऑल टुगेदर. ट्राई टू रिमेंबर थिंग्स एज अ प्रोसेस. ऑल राइट. सो when I talk about the religious practices, it is something that is reflected in the study of seals and sculptures. From that I come to know that we worship male, female deities and we worship plants and animals as well. Now I will proceed further and give examples what will I do? I will give examples of whatever seals and sculptures that have been discovered during the Indus Valley civilization. All right? Okay. Yes, please. I'll try my best to completely use the English. In between, since it's my mother tongue, naturally ho jata hai by mistake. Okay? And in case anybody finds any problem, kindly ask me to repeat it. I'll just repeat it in English. All right? ठीक है. So, we had spoken about the religious practices. We have spoken about town planning. We have spoken about trading. Do you think the Harappans had any contacts with any kind of Chalcolithic cultures? Yes. Can you substantiate with the use of any metal? Copper. Where were we procuring copper from? Khetri mines. Khetri mines are in Rajasthan. So we know that these people were interacting with other cultures that were also part of the Indian subcontinent. They were not as advanced as the Indus Valley civilization, but through the contact between the two, we know that some kind of trading was going on. All right? ठीक है. Apart from that, if I talk about the end of the Indus Valley civilization, is this something that had happened due to an invasion? No. Did we have Aryan invasion? No. सोच लो. माइग्रेशन हुआ है, इन्वेजन की थ्योरी डिस्प्रूव हुई है. कैसे डिस्प्रूव हुई है? करेक्ट. आर्कियोलॉजिकल एविडेंस ने. सबसे पहले तो मैंने एक शॉर्ट लाइन में बोला दैट there are no archaeological evidences to substantiate that there may have been a huge battle between the indigenous people and the so-called Aryans who are coming from outside. Okay, I do not find any weapons. I do not find any mass graves which may indicate that such kind of event may have happened. Despite that, do you think these people may have been friendly to each other? No. There was hostility, but a possibility of war is something that is not documented in the archaeological evidences. ठीक है भाई, ये बात हो गई. All right. Now, I had told you students there was a specific date which is 1900 BC. When I talk about 1900 BC, what is the importance of this particular year? Two cities have for sure declined, which is Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Do you think Harappan civilization declined in a day? It declined in a year? It is a gradual process. This gradual process is accentuated by a single reason or multiple reasons? Multiple reasons. Can you give me one term to identify most of the causes? Climatic changes. Very good. In the climatic changes, students, we know that there are floods at some particular areas. In some areas, there is a weaker monsoon. There is shifting courses of river and there is drying up of the Saraswati river. All right. All of these causes can be accredited towards the gradual decline of the Harappan civilization. Now, the Harappan civilization almost declines at this point of time. It is gradually declining. But the Rigvedic period will start from approximately 1500 BC. तो इस बीच में इंडिया में क्या चल रहा है? खाली है, बंजर है, कोई नहीं है. Chalcolithic cultures हैं और very good. We have Aryans migrating in our country in waves. I had told you that these people ऐसा तो है नहीं उस टाइम पे कि सारे ट्रेन में बैठ के आ गए. Not possible. These people are gradually migrating towards our country and groups of people are coming and settling down. There is a distinction, by the way, in their ethnicity, which we are going to discuss today. So, keeping that in mind, we know how the Harappan civilization is declining, and right now, today, our concern will be first to understand this gap between 1900 to 1500, the major important cultures that were going on, and then we'll proceed further and start with the Rigvedic period. Okay? ठीक है भाई. Let's talk about the Chalcolithic cultures first and then we are proceeding further towards Vedic civilization. फटाफट से heading दे देंगे. You are going to write running notes with me in the class. The ones who are behind the screens, I request you, please write the notes, the running notes all together, otherwise you'll forget everything. बार बार 1-2 घंटे के लेक्चर देखना पॉसिबल नहीं, एग्जाम से पहले लेक्चर देखने थोड़ी बैठेंगे. ठीक है भाई, चैल्कोलिथिक कल्चर्स की हम बात कर रहे हैं. As the title suggests, let's first understand the nature and the economy of the Chalcolithic cultures. If I talk about the nature and the economy of the Chalcolithic cultures, do you think these are urban settlements? No. I cannot even call them completely rural. They are a mixed settlement. In some Chalcolithic culture, students, it will be very significant to note that there is a mixture of some kind of agriculture and some kind of cattle rearing which is happening together. इसको अपन क्या बोलेंगे? मिक्स्ड होना. एक अपने पास में क्या होती है? बेसिकली हमारे पास में होती है या तो कोई पेस्टोरल सोसाइटी होती है या फिर कोई एग्रीकल्चरल सेटल्ड सोसाइटी होती है. पेस्टोरल सोसाइटी वो होती है जो अपने सबसिस्टेंस के लिए, अपनी डे टू डे सबसिस्टेंस के लिए, दीज पीपल रिलाई ऑन एनिमल रियरिंग, ऑन कैटल रियरिंग. ठीक है. ऑन द अदर हैंड, इफ आई टॉक अबाउट एन एग्रीकल्चरल सोसाइटी, these people are settled down in one area first of all, because if you are an agricultural community, the first prerequisite to that is that you cannot be nomadic in nature. You'll have to settle down at a particular place. Keeping that in mind, these people were partly doing agriculture also, and partly these people were cattle rearing as well. In some societies wherein there was agriculture that was being practiced, gradually they turned into complete settled societies. Understood? Okay. In that context, if I forget this and I call a society, I call the economy of a society as being pastoral, then they are generally nomadic in nature. Why is a pastoral society nomadic in nature? Exactly. They will overutilize the resources of a particular area if they do not keep on changing their locations from time to time. All right. Also, we are kind of hunters at the same time. So we move in the direction of the prey. Hence, we have a nomadic nature. But it completely changes when we start performing agriculture. Why? Because now we are dependent on that land. Now we are dependent on that produce. And that is why we have settled in that particular area. Keeping that in mind, if I ask you what is the economy, students, of the Chalcolithic cultures, you will tell me, ma'am, it is a mixture of pastoralism wherein some societies on a smaller scale also started doing agriculture. If I talk about the economy, it's a mixed economy having elements of pastoralism and agriculture. Some Chalcolithic cultures will evolve to become settled agrarian societies. Now, in that context, students, the idea with respect to Chalcolithic cultures, किस वे में हमें इस नॉलेज को कंज्यूम करना है, ये मैं आपको बताती हूँ. फॉर सिविल सर्विसेज स्पेसिफिकली. ओके. नाउ, in civil services, we have never really found a question on Chalcolithic cultures, but in 2021, there was a match the following question. Okay. There was a match the following question. We had 3 pairs. In that, one pair was pertaining to copper artifacts and a place known as Ganeshwar Jodhpura. Okay. And that is something which is incorporated in your old and new NCERT both. But apart from that, the other 2 pairs were from current affairs, hence it was a very difficult question. But right now we will not focus on those 2 pairs. We know that one aspect of that question is in our routine sources. And routine sources we have to cover anyway. Okay, keeping that in mind, how we are going to navigate through the Chalcolithic cultures, you are going to simply remember the names of the Chalcolithic cultures, their location. Okay, so first of all, names of the Chalcolithic cultures, then we have to remember their primary location, the area in which they are spreading. Then we are going to remember the key sites of the Chalcolithic cultures, and finally we are also going to remember the ceramic culture that was a part of these Chalcolithic cultures. Ceramic culture माने pottery type. अगर मैं Harappan civilization की बात करूं, if I talk about the Harappan civilization, what kind of a ceramic culture did we have? Black on red ware, BRW. Very good. So basically students, what we have done in the Chalcolithic cultures, we have defined them on the basis of their pottery culture. We have defined, let's say we have one culture which is a hard culture. Here you will find similar kind of pottery, hence we have given it a singular name. Alright. So in that context, this will be the manner in which we are going to proceed further and understand about the major Chalcolithic cultures in India. These are your major Chalcolithic cultures in India. Some of them are contemporary to the Harappan civilization, and most of them will succeed the Harappan civilization. They will still be flourishing while the Harappan civilization is declining. In that context, students, the oldest Chalcolithic culture in our country is considered to be the Ahad Chalcolithic culture. We have Ahad, Kayatha, Malwa. Apart from that, we have the ochre colored pottery culture, and then we have the Jorva culture. Ahad culture students, Ahad culture को Ahad इसलिए कहते हैं क्योंकि जो पहली साइट हमने डिस्कवर करी वो थी Ahad, and this was in Rajasthan. Okay, so sometimes historians, what do? They like to name the culture on the basis of the type site. For instance, why do we call Harappan civilization Harappan civilization? The first site that was found was Harappa. Indeed, that is why Ahad culture is known as Ahad culture, because this is the type site. Kayatha is also the type site. Okay, इनके नाम लिख लेंगे. इनको मैंने अरेंज भी chronologically कर रखा है. If you bar the OCP culture, because it is little bit different, I'll tell you why later on. Then the short form goes as AKMJ, which is अक्षय कुमार माइकल जैक्सन. ऐसे याद रखेंगे. ठीक है. You will make more and more mnemonic students. It will be very very helpful. Periodic table रटी थी ना हम लोगों ने स्कूल में, उसी तरह से. So AKMJ, and then we have the OCP culture. वैसे स्लाइड्स आएंगे आपके पास में, फिर भी लिख लो. लोकेशन देख लेते हैं एक बार. आहार तो मैंने आपको बता दिया, राजस्थान. कायथा की अगर बात करी जाए स्टूडेंट्स, इट इज इन द सेंट्रल मालवा रीजन. इन दैट कॉन्टेक्स्ट, इफ आई आस्क यू व्हाट इज मालवा, व्हाट विल यू टेल मी? Incorporates which two states? Rajasthan. Southeastern part of Rajasthan and MP is Malwa. These kind of terms are used in history. That is why you must know what is Deccan, what is Malwa. Okay, what states? Let's say I say Vindhyan ranges. Now you don't know where Vindhyan ranges are, then there will be no point of understanding the geographical context. Okay, so I know the area in which the Kayatha culture was flourishing. Then I have the Malwa culture. Okay, Malwa culture again is flourishing in Malwa region, which we have already discussed. Apart from that, students, you will see that the Malwa culture at its end started spreading towards Western and Deccan India. In that context, to be very clear, the Malwa culture started spreading in Maharashtra. And by the time the Malwa culture was declining, there was a new Chalcolithic culture which was becoming more significant in Maharashtra, and that is the Jorva culture. In that context, historian students say that the Malwa culture is the predecessor or the Jorva culture is the successor of Malwa culture. ये एक statement based question बन सकता है. Which or what culture is the successor of the Malwa culture? What will be the answer? Jorva. Which culture is the predecessor of the Jorva culture? Malwa. Okay. Now, keeping this in mind, we are going to proceed further and analyze each of these cultures on the basis of those 4 features that I defined earlier. Let's start with the Ahad culture. When I talk about the Ahad culture, location I already know, students. It is flourishing in parts of Rajasthan. If I talk about the sites of the Ahad culture, then we have Ahad, we have Gilund, we have Bagor, we have Ojiana. These are some major sites which are a part of the Ahad culture. In that context, what is a culture? We define a culture on the basis of similarity. That similarity can be on the basis of their subsistence method, can be on the basis of the kind of ceramics that they were using. For instance, in majority of the sites belonging to the Ahad culture, you will find redware. You will find redware. RW. So, let's say I am a historian and I have went for an excavation. Okay. What I do, I decided that this is my site. I am going to do excavation here. Now, every 20 kilometers or so, when I was digging, I found a cluster of pottery or a cluster of copper objects. They looked really similar. What will I say? That maybe every 20 kilometers, whatever small sites that I have discovered, they were all interacting with each other. Hence, I can say that they were all a part of same culture. For instance, let's say if I talk about Harappan culture, usko imagine karna aasan hoga. Okay. So let's say if I talk about the Harappan culture, I discovered a site in Rajasthan, I discovered a site in Gujarat, I discovered a site in Punjab. All 3 of places, there was one commonality. That is, there was extremely intricate town planning that was done. And the houses looked quite similar. Keeping that in mind, what will I derive from this information? What will I conclude? That there may be some kind of interaction between these people. There is a commonality in their lifestyle. Hence, they all belong to a similar culture, which is known as Harappan culture. The same logic will be applied here. We have multiple sites belonging to this culture, and in that context, the major pottery that is produced here is RW or redware. Okay. Apart from that, students, you will see that it will be very important to note that it is the people of the Ahad culture who were supplying copper to the Harappans. यानी कि खेतड़ी माइंस के आसपास भी ये कल्चर चल रहा था, and these people were interacting with the Harappans by supplying copper. Okay. After Akshay, we have Kumar, which is Kayatha culture. We call Kayatha culture because the type site is Kayatha. Okay. Apart from that, we don't have a lot of sites. It was comparatively a smaller culture. So the most significant site here is Kayatha only. The focus for you instead should be on the ceramics or the pottery culture that was created here. The kind of pottery, students, that we find here is known as chocolate slipped ware. Now, if I use this term, first of all, tell me what will be the base color of the pottery? Chocolate color. Okay. The idea is that, ma'am, what is slipped? Slipped, students, is nothing but a clay treatment process which is given to any ceramic so that they are made more stronger instead of being brittle. Okay, it is a clay treatment given on the surface, not necessary to write. It is a clay treatment which is given on the surface so that the surface is more hardened and it is less brittle. Alright, so this is another major culture for you. Their chronology and the pottery culture associated to them is something which will be important. After that, students, we have the Malwa culture. When I say Malwa, we have parts of Rajasthan and MP which are associated with this. However, what will happen at a later stage, Malwa will also flourish in which region? Deccan. But when? At a later stage. When I say Deccan, it is corresponding to the state of Maharashtra. The most important sites with respect to the Malwa culture include Aran, Nagda and Navda Toli. In fact, these three are the largest Chalcolithic sites belonging to the Malwa culture. If we talk about the ceramic culture, students, if we talk about the pottery, then it is cream slipped ware. Cream slipped ware. What color is the ceramic? Cream color. तभी तो लिखा है cream. All right. Next, students, we have the Jorva culture. Jorva culture is flourishing in which area? It is flourishing in Maharashtra. In that context, you will find that the sites of Navda Toli, for that matter, has also experienced the Jorva culture. And that is why I say that the Jorva culture is considered to be the successor of Malwa culture in Deccan. In Deccan. Understood? The two most important sites that belong to the Jorva culture and are actually huge in size include Inamgaon and Daimabad. Daimabad also has a Harappan culture, but it gradually declined. And here we see what is taking place of that Harappan culture. Chalcolithic culture is taking place. Ceramic culture, BRW, black on red ware, and coarse red ware. ठीक है? So these are your four major Chalcolithic cultures that you are going to witness, especially after the gradual decline of the Harappan culture. Okay. Apart from that, students, we have one more culture that I had shown to you, which is known as the OCP culture. Keeping that in mind, when we start the OCP culture, you will give the heading of OCP plus copper hoards. The heading would be OCP plus copper hoards. OCP, automatically the name is on the ceramic culture. So we know the ceramic culture, which is ochre colored pottery. Now students, when we talk about the OCP culture, its earliest and most important sites were found in Rajasthan. In that context, the thickest deposit of OCP is found from a region which is known as the Ganeshwar Jodhpura region. Simple factual question, match the following भी बन सकता है. It can also be turned into a statement based question that which area has the thickest OCP deposits? What will be the answer? The Ganeshwar Jodhpura region. Why am I not telling you the ceramic culture? The name itself is defined on the basis of the ceramic culture. Now, I have given you a second term here if you see, that is copper hoods. Basically, students, what happened when we were excavating multiple sites with respect to the OCP culture, in some sites we have what? In some sites we have copper hoards which are found. Copper hoards as in, what is a hoard? What do you mean by the term hoard? Okay, example, women like to hoard clothes. Now, if you open their wardrobe, there is this huge pile of clothes. Similarly, you will find huge pile of copper objects in association to OCP at some sites. But on the other sites, you will only find OCP. And at some sites, you will only find copper hoards. So, we have three scenarios. Understood? Some sites both are found together. Some sites only OCP and some sites only copper hoards. So, the historians were baffled so as to if there is a connection between these two or not. The idea is that we don't have to go in that debate. Alright. And this is something which is also mentioned in your NCERT. So, you will discard that particular paragraph because it is a debated historical debate. Okay. तो उस टॉपिक को छोड़ना है. हमें क्या इम्बाइब करना है उसके अंदर से, हमें क्या समझना है? We have to only understand that which is the place wherein we have found the largest deposits of copper hoards. And this place, students, is known as Gangeria. This place is known as Gangeria. It will also be important to note that since there are few OCP sites which are found along with the copper hoards, Ganeshwar Jodhpura is the region wherein you will also find copper hoard deposits. I will just repeat myself. We have spoken about 5 Chalcolithic cultures in India. Chalcolithic cultures are those cultures which have been interacting with Harappan civilization but are not as urban as the Harappan civilization was. Apart from that, the Chalcolithic cultures, some were contemporary to the Harappans and some had later preceded further in time. Okay. Apart from that, students, we see that there are 5 major Chalcolithic cultures that we have spoken about, which is AKMJ, that is Ahad, Kayatha, Malwa, Jorve. And apart from that, we have the OCP culture. Ahad is in Rajasthan, Kayatha is in Malwa region. Apart from that, we have the Malwa culture, which is again in Malwa region. But by the time the Malwa culture will start declining or the ending phase of Malwa culture will come, it is also going to spread in which area? Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, the successive Chalcolithic culture will be the Jorve culture. That is why we say that the Malwa culture can be seen as the predecessor of the Jorve culture. Apart from that, if I talk about the Jorve culture, it is something which is flourishing in Maharashtra. Malwa culture, 3 largest sites, Aran, Nagda and Navdatoli. Jorve culture, 2 most important sites, Daimabad and Inamgaon. When I talk about the last Chalcolithic culture, which is the ochre colored pottery culture, there is a debate with respect to its association with, association किसके साथ, copper hoards के साथ में. In some places we have found it along with copper hoards, some places only OCP culture. As a result, there are 2 points that you are going to remember with respect to this culture. Number 1, thickest OCP deposits are found at Ganeshwar, Jodhpura region. And largest number of copper hoards at one place found is Gangarian. That's it. This is enough for us to understand the major Chalcolithic cultures. All right. Now, students, what happens? All of these cultures are proceeded further by another major type of culture which is defined on the basis of its pottery. That culture is known as the PGW culture. What is a culture? If I say that this particular area was experiencing PGW culture, you will tell me, ma'am, itna bada area hai. Maybe there were multiple sites here and all of them yielded PGW. PGW का full form है painted grey ware, grey color के pots. Okay. So what happens, students? You will see from 1500 BC onwards, we start finding another type of ceramic which is especially found in the area of the Punjab and the northwestern region. This is known as the PGW pottery culture. The full form is going to be painted grey ware. In that context, I told you the sites. I told you the location. We are finding PGW pottery in Punjab, and later on it will also be found in parts of UP. It will also be found in parts of UP. Now, in that context, if you look at the time period and if you look at the location wherein PGW is found, can you identify it with a civilization? लगाओ, इतने सारे पॉइंट तो बता दिए, एक ही तो पॉइंट है इसमें. Can you associate it with a specific civilization? Yes, Rigvedic. Rigvedic civilization is happening exactly in that area wherein Harappan civilization had happened. Clear? In that, when you talk about the PGW pottery culture, it is associated with the Vedic period or the Vedic civilization. This PGW culture, students, can be divided into 2 phases. The first phase of PGW does not have iron tools. So, this is PGW minus iron tools, and this is associated with the Rigvedic period. The second phase of PGW is associated with the presence of iron tools, and hence it is associated with the later Vedic period. I'll just explain it again to you in case there is a confusion. Although from the first class, I think you'll be able to understand why I have written this. Because the Iron Age starts from this period. So basically what happens, students, let's imagine we are all historians and we are all asked to go for an excavation. And we found a mound. And we started digging from the top. Anything found on the top is the youngest. Anything found at the end of the mound is the oldest. So let's say I did my excavations on 2 levels. On 2 levels, even in this level I find PGW, and even at this level I am finding PGW. But at this upper level I find it along with iron tools. And at the lower level I do not find iron tools. The beginning of Iron Age in India, students, coincides with the later Vedic period. And I am telling you that the ceramic culture is PGW. automatically you will understand that PGW equals Vedic culture. If there are iron tools, then it is later Vedic culture. If there are no iron tools, then it is Rig Vedic culture. Any doubt? Understood about PGW? Online students, quickly give me a thumbs up. Perfect. लिख लिया? Okay. Next culture, ceramic culture that we experience in the northern part of our country is known as NBPW. That is Northern Black Polished Ware. If I talk about this culture, students, I already know what is the ceramic style. It is NBPW. Now, if I tell you that I have found NBPW and I have found it with iron tools, and interestingly, these iron tools are used in agriculture. What time period will you equate this with? सेकेंड अर्बनाइजेशन. लेटर वैदिक तो हो गया ना अभी जस्ट लास्ट स्लाइड में. दिमाग खोल के पढ़ेंगे, सुबह के टाइम भी नींद आ रही है. When I am talking about iron tools and when I say that iron tools, I have found agricultural tools. Indeed, it is correct. It's Mahajanapads. It is associated with the period of second urbanization. So let's reverse engineer it. What is the ceramic culture in the Vedic period? What is the ceramic culture in the Vedic period? PGW. When I say that I am talking about the later Vedic period, what will you find along with PGW? What kind of iron tools? Hunting tools. If I say I have found iron plow, in that context, what kind of pottery culture should be associated with it? NBPW. NBPW plus iron tools equals to the time period of Mahajanapads. PGW minus iron tools equates to which time period? Rig Vedic period. PGW plus iron tools equates to later Vedic period. Understood? This is your PGW. And this is your NBPW. When we talk about NBPW, since it's a polished surface, it has a glossy shine. Okay. And this kind of pottery is found across multiple Mahajanapads. Okay. So NBPW culture is associated with the second urbanization period. Can you tell me the year of second urbanization quickly? 600 BC. Okay. This is a quick overview of major Chalcolithic cultures in India. Apart from that, we have also understood about the ceramic culture, students, which were flourishing during the Vedic and the Mahajanapad period. Sometimes what happens is, when you are navigating R.S. Sharma, either the publication or the NCERT, he may, instead of using the term Mahajanapad or Vedic period, might use the PGW sites. In that context, you don't have to get confused. You will automatically understand that this is the time period that he is talking about. Moreover, as I have told you again and again, I, as a student and now as a teacher, have never really relied on dates, which you might have experienced in last 3 classes, that I don't use dates a lot. But in the end, I'll make sure that you understand the placement of the key events. The reason being, neither do we have short years, nor do we even get any questions, especially from this period of ancient India, wherein there will be a डेडिकेटेड क्रोनोलॉजिकल अरेंजमेंट कि आपको बोल दे भाई डेट दो मेरे को तो तुम कि किस दिन पीजीडब्ल्यू कल्चर स्टार्ट हुआ था. पॉसिबल ही नहीं है. कल्चर की डेट कैसे निकाल सकते हैं, राइट? ओके, so with this the discussion of Chalcolithic cultures is complete. Now today, students, we have to start with the Vedic period. The Vedic period has 2 components, which includes your Rig Vedic or the early Vedic period, preceded by the later Vedic period. First of all, we are going to start with the Rig Vedic period, and the time period is टाइम पीरियड बताओ भाई। 1000 कहां पे आ गए, अभी स्टार्ट ही नहीं हुआ से। मैंने बताया ना मेरे को डेट से याद नहीं रहती, आप बताओगे। इट्स योर ड्यूटी। So approximately 1500 to 1000 BC. Let's take a trailer look of what we are going to encounter when we study ऋग्वेदिक period. In that context, ऋग्वेद के बारे में पढ़ना है तो ये तो पता होना चाहिए ना कि ऋग्वेद है क्या, ऋग्वेद में लिखा क्या है. Apart from that, how is ऋग्वेद a source of history? In that context, in my first class, I told you about two types of historical sources, which is literary and archaeological. Literary sources on the basis of their themes were divided in three categories: religious, secular, foreign accounts. Clear? Now, if I talk about Rigved, where will you place it? It is a religious source. What is a secular source according to you? Can you name any random secular source for me? Any random, जो भी तुम्हारे दिमाग में एंशिएंट इंडिया को लेके किताब आ रही है, कोई सेक्युलर सोर्स. Very good. Arthashastra. It's an academic book. If I say the most famous play of Kalidas, Abhigyanam Shakuntalam, is it a secular literature? Why? It is secular literature. भगवान की बात हो रही है क्या अभिज्ञानम शकुंतलम में? No. When I talk about religious sources, they are talking about gods, they are talking about rituals, like Rigved. When I talk about secular sources, it will incorporate your play, drama, academic books, books on law, medicine, astronomy, astrology, etc. Understood? Yes, indeed, Malvika Agnimitra is a very good example, and the best example of secular source in ancient India is Sangam literature. पहला चैप्टर भी नहीं पढ़ा गया अभी तक एनसीईआरटी का, आप सबके घरों में पढ़ाने के लिए. You will have to proceed with me. Some self readings needs to be done. Yes? Okay. So why did I go back to the nature of the sources, students? Because I wanted to tell you that Rigved is a religious source. Now the question that should come to your mind is that how from a religious source are we able to understand about the society, economy and the political structure of any particular time period? Because if you imagine Rigved, in Rigved, what do we have? We have chants, we have mantra that are dedicated to specific gods. How did the historians use it in such a manner that we were able to compile geographical information, tribal information, political information, economy, etc.? Now that's one question that we'll answer here. Okay. Apart from that, this part we have already discussed a lot, which is background and the ceramic culture. Okay, I'll give you a quick introduction again. Apart from that, we have to answer another question apart from Rigved, that is who wrote Rigved. We have this term Aryan, 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 so we have to explain the nature of Aryan here. Okay. Apart from that, once we had understood about the nature of Rigved, naturally there are only three aspects to be understood with respect to any empire or civilization, which is your political history, social history and economic history. समझ में आ गया? ठीक है. So with this, students, let's proceed further towards the first topic, which is background and the ceramic culture. Since I have already taught this to you, you will teach this to me now. क्या लिखूं यहाँ? What should I write? Yes. First of all, if I say ceramic culture and I am saying Rigvedic period, what will I say? What am I using? PGW. What else can be put in background and ceramic culture? Is there any association of PGW with anything? Iron tools. Very good. बाहर निकल जाओ क्लास से. Without iron tools. So you will write that PGW minus iron tools. रिविजन करना है, सोना नहीं है. ठीक है. Now, when I talk about no usage of iron tools, can I say that if I talk about the background of Rigvedic people, can I say they are settled societies? Yes, very good, very good. How will you settle? How will you settle? What is the prerequisite of settling? Agriculture. If I talk about agriculture, does it require any tools? Yes. When I talk about the Rigvedic people, ये तो popular culture में है यार. When I talk about the Rigvedic people, their entire focus was on a thing which is known as gau. What do I mean by gau? Cow. Do you use cow in agriculture? It is cattle rearing. Moreover, I had told you that the prerequisite of settling down, the prerequisite of agricultural surplus was iron, and iron is something which is not found here. So how can you say that these people are settled societies? We have used things like Aryan migration happening, these people gradually coming to our area, and they are not going to be settled. The settlement will come in the Mahajanpad period. This is something we had already discussed in the first class. Okay, so I know there is PGW. I know there are no iron tools. Moreover, I know that I have a source which is known as Rigved, and Rigved tells me that these people focused upon one specific animal, and that specific animal is gau or cow. This term itself has been used multiple times, students, in Rigved, emphasizing the importance of cattle, and from that I come to know that they are cattle rearing people. If you are cattle rearing people, can you settle in one place? Won't you be overutilizing resources? That is why you have to be nomadic or semi-nomadic in nature. So, I would say the focus is on cattle rearing, suggesting that the Rigvedic people were nomadic or semi-nomadic in nature. Okay. The second point that you have to remember with respect to the very beginning of Rigvedic period, students, is the geographical extent. Wait, I have a map somewhere. Yeah. Let's talk about the geographical extent. When I talk about the geographical extent, how do I know that the Rigvedic people were living in a specific area? What do you think can be a source? Two sources we have. We have archaeological sources also to support us. We have literary source also to support us. If I say archaeological source, what do you find? PGW. Very good. If I say literary source, what do you find? Rigved. Okay. Why do we call this Rigvedic period? Because Rigved was compiled in this period. Okay. So, if I talk about the geographical extent, students, of the Rigvedic people, you will see these people were flourishing in an area which is known as the Sapt Sindhu region. How do I know? Rigved mein likha hai. Rigved mein likha hai that the Aryans were flourishing where? In the Sapt Sindhu region. In that context, when I use the term Sapt, what does it mean? 7. So, I have names of 7 rivers across whom we see the Rigvedic Aryans flourishing. Okay. In that context, one is Sindhu. What is Sindhu? Second is your mythological river. Okay. Which is Saraswati. When we talk about Saraswati, it is kind of addressed with multiple names in Rigved, such as Naditama, Naditarna, Naditame, etc. These are what? These are other names of Saraswati which are found in Rigveda. Apart from that, we have the 5 tributaries of Indus River. This include, we have Bias, Ravi, Jhelum, Chenab and Satluj. Bias, Vipash, Ravi, Parshuni, Jhelum, Vitasta, Chenab, Askini, Satluj, Sutudri. What are these? Old names of these 5 tributaries which are mentioned in Rigveda. If you look at this map, this green part is the area in which the early Vedic or the Rigvedic civilization is flourishing. This is exactly that area wherein the most important sites of Harappan civilization were flourishing, including Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Okay. However, what do we see in this map? We have another part in yellow color, and if you'll see here, this is the part which is identified as the later Vedic period. So, in the later Vedic period, from this map, I know that the Aryans are gradually migrating towards eastern India. ठीक है? So, there is going to be expansion of the Rigvedic people in the eastward direction of our country, but when? In the later Vedic period. If I say the extent of Rigvedic period, ma'am, Sap-Sindhu river. Okay. Primarily, if you talk about the current states of India, Punjab and Haryana were the 2 states wherein you will find the Rigvedic people flourishing. ठीक है? Okay. We have understood about the ceramic culture and the background of the Rigvedic period. We have understood about the geographical extent in which the Rigvedic Aryans are flourishing. With that, let's come to the most burning question, which is, who were the Aryans? In that, the first question has already been answered for you during the Harappan civilization, and that was, do you think these Aryans came as invaders? No, they were migrating, certainly we know that, but a possibility of invasion has been negated due to the lack of archaeological sources. Hence, that debate is settled. Now, the second question becomes that what is the ethnicity of these Aryans? In that context, R.S. Sharma student specifically tells us that we are not sure if these people belonged to a common race. We are not sure that they belong to a common race, but they all spoke similar languages which belong to a group of Indo-European languages. So, we don't know of their similar race, but we know they are speaking a similar language group which is known as the Indo-European languages. In that context, students, if we talk about the original home and the identity of the Aryans, it is suggested that these people started from the steppes region and they started specifically from Russia. Okay, these people started specifically from Russia and they were migratory by nature, and gradually they covered large parts of Central and Western Asia and ultimately came towards India. Now, the idea is that when you imagine migration, don't imagine it in a way wherein there is one guy who has started walking from Russia and staying in Central Asia, then Western Asia, then coming to India. We are mortals, first of all. Okay, migration is something that happens in a manner, let's say 500 people started from Russia. They reached a specific location. Out of that, 200 decided that we are going to stay here only. And they started their own line. They will naturally reproduce and their own line has started. Okay. The rest 300 people carried on. At a certain point of time, 150 got divided and they went to their own lines. That is why we are not sure whether they had at a certain point of time a common race or ethnicity, but a similarity was that of similar languages. In that context, from 1900 onwards, we see that people who identified themselves as Aryans were coming in branches, they were coming in waves. In that context, Rigved gives us names of two categories, which is known as Das and Dasyus. देखो बहुत डिबेट है इस बात पे. Many people say that it was a deliberate theory that was put forward by colonials to suggest that the Aryans, who apparently were a very cultural people, never originated in India, came from outside, so that they can show that you never had your own superiority. This is one debate. ठीक है? We don't have to do PhD anyway. All right. Apart from that, if we stick to our original sources, which is NCERT, then NCERT tells us that if we talk about these two terms, the term Das, which is mentioned in Rigved, talks about the branch of pre-Aryans that had settled in India before the Rigvedic Aryans. In that context, you will always remember that idea in which I had told you how migration happens. So apparently, they say that there was an Iranian line of people who had entered our country before the Rigvedic people, and these were identified as pre-Aryans, and in some books they are also known as early Aryans. Okay. Now, who are these people? Again, migration started long back. Okay, and it was branched across multiple parts of Central and Western Asia. In that context, the first branch that entered our country came to be identified as Das in Rigved by the Rigvedic Aryans, who say that these Das people were pre-Aryans who had entered India or Indian subcontinent before them. How do I and you know that? Rigved mein likha hai. This is the identification that is done in Rigved. For that matter, students, if you'll see the names of the people who belong to this particular category, their names are quite similar to the Rigvedic Aryans. Yes, their names are very similar to the Rigvedic Aryans. In that context, it's a huge debate whether these people were original inhabitants of our country, whether they came, whether they migrated. We don't have to go into that debate. You just need to understand the nomenclature of what do you understand by Das and what do you understand by Dasyus. You will never be asked in UPSC about a question which is debatable in nature, because we are writing down a generalistic exam. इस context में सबसे अच्छे example science and tech का देती हूँ. If you are reading about artificial intelligence, तो कल से robot बनाने तो बैठोगे नहीं. Yes, if you are talking about vaccines, ma'am, I want to know everything about vaccines. Why you are going to make another vaccine? Similarly, every subject has its pros and cons, and in history there are a lot of debates which you are going to deliberately discard. That is not at all helpful in your preparation. Okay, so I know that there is a debate that is going on. Okay, fine. But one thing is certain, that there is this group of people. They are in my country. If I talk about them, they can be divided in Rigvedic Aryans, Das and Dasyus. Rigvedic Aryans, the ones who are the writers of Rigved. Who are Das? These are the early branches that had come towards our country, which the Rigvedic Aryans say are not as pure as them. Okay. And who are the Dasyus students? These are the non-Aryans, correct? First nomenclature, these are non-Aryans. Second, these people are considered to be the original inhabitants of our land. In that context, if we read Rigved, Rigved says that there is a category of people known as Dasyus who are dark-skinned, who have fuller lips, and who are phallus worshippers. Who are phallus worshippers. When we say phallus worshippers, phallus worshipping resonates with the worshipping of the male organ. In that context, we have Shivling, and the idea of worshipping Pashupati, okay, is something that can be correlated with this, and hence these people are also identified as probably the Harappans who were inhabiting the land before the Aryans came to our country. Got it? Because the Rigvedic civilization will flourish in which area? It is going to flourish in the same area wherein the Harappan civilization was flourishing. Contemporary times में अगर states की बात करें तो पंजाब और हरियाणा. Shraddha at the end of the lecture. All right. So, when I say Rigvedic period, ceramic culture, PGW, is there presence of iron? If I talk about the lifestyle of these people, are these settled agrarian societies? No. They rely on what? They rely on cattle. How do I know and you know that? The usage of gau is something which is used repeatedly in the Rigved. Okay. Apart from that, I want to understand that when these so-called Aryans came to our country, what were the people that they interacted with? In that context, we can say that, ma'am, we can divide the people in three categories. We have Rigvedic Aryans, we have Das, and we have Dasyus. Rigvedic Aryans, the ones who are composers of Rigved. Okay. Who are Das students? Pre-Aryans, early Aryans, those branches which had come from 1900s in waves. Okay. Who are Dasyus? Non-Aryans, original inhabitants of the land who were dark-skinned, who had fuller lips, and who were phallus worshippers. Apart from that, I had told you about the idea of having a common language between these Aryans. With respect to this common group of Indo-European languages, students, you will see that there are names of 3 inscriptions which are given in your old NCERT. Okay, these 3 inscriptions include the Hittite, Kassite, and Mitanni inscription. No, Hittite is Anatolia, Turkey. Yes. This is Iraq and this is Syria. What are these, students? I'll tell you again. We know that these people are talking in a similar language group. Their languages have similarity. Who? The Aryans, both the early Aryans and the Rigvedic Aryans. We are not sure whether they belong to a common race, but the commonality between them is that they are all speaking similar types of languages. If we talk about Indo-European languages, the earliest specimen of Indo-European languages is reflected in 3 inscriptions, which is Hittite, Kassite, and Mitanni, and these are located in these particular locations. When I say Anatolia, it corresponds to what? Turkey, present day Turkey. In fact, students, you will see if you read these 3 inscriptions, the gods that are mentioned in these inscriptions are similar to the Rigvedic gods. In that context, we can see that these people are gradually taking their culture here. I was reading one article yesterday. It was an IGNOU article. It suggested something even more interesting. It suggested that the reason why the Rigvedic Aryans don't like the early Aryans is because the early Aryans were a settled agrarian society, while the Rigvedic Aryans were pastoral in nature. And what happens, students? Let's say today you and me decide to go to North Sentinel Islands. When those people will look at us, they will be scared. When we look at them, we will be equally scared. Why? Because our way of looking at life is quite different. Hence, what happens? Whenever we find somebody who doesn't share the similar ideals with us, we either run away from them or we fight them. And this is history. Okay, this has been human history throughout. We always have the fear of a foreigner. Keeping that in mind, their practices were different from each other. I'm talking about the gist of that article which I was reading. Okay, they had similar, different lifestyles, because of which the Rigvedic Aryans used to be sometimes hostile with the pre-Aryans as well. It's one perspective of a historian. ठीक है जी. तो हमारे पास में हमने इनिशियल कई क्वेश्चंस को आंसर करने की कोशिश करी है जो डिबेटेबल होते हैं. इन डिबेट्स को हम शांत करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. Who were the Aryans? What is Rigved? Okay. Apart from that, what is the economy of the Rigvedic people? Short में हमने कुछ points इनके देखे हैं. When I talk about the similarity between the different branches of Aryans, what is the point of similarity between them? Is it their race? And what is the language group, students? Indo-European languages. Can you tell me names of any inscriptions which reflect the earliest specimens? Hittite, Kassite, and Mitanni. If I ask you, when I read these inscriptions, there is a similarity even in the gods. Is it correct or not? Yes. In that context, the culture is spreading towards India. Even the pantheon will be quite similar. Okay. ठीक है. दास एंड दस्यूस वाला पॉइंट लिखवा दिया है एंड इंस्क्रिप्शंस करा दिए. ठीक है, आगे बढ़ते हैं. Give the subheading using Rigved as a source of history. Using Rigved as a source of history. When I say Rigved, it is a religious source. If I define Rigved, it is a, लिखते रहो, collection of hymns and prayers dedicated to Indra, Agni, Mitra and Varun. What is Rigved? It is a collection of hymns and prayers dedicated to nature deities. Are we worshipping a lot of nature deities in contemporary times? Not really. If you talk about the major pantheon, that is Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, they are not nature deities. The reason being, your gods will change according to your lifestyle. Are we bound by the nature in contemporary times? Are we as scared कि तुम कोई road पे थोड़ी रह रहे हो? That suddenly there will be, you are completely dependent on rainfall or you are completely dependent on the weather conditions with respect to your lifestyle. Is it so? No. That is why you will see the earliest religion that had developed in across any part of the world was related to nature worship. Why? Because when you don't understand something, you either run away from it, you fight it, or you worship it. The first two aspects can be applicable in human society. The third one is applicable in natural phenomena. Suddenly, I am a caveman and I see thunder. Now, that is something which would look very supernatural to me. Moreover, my life is dependent on that until unless I properly understand that phenomena. Keeping that in mind, students, no matter which area, if the time period is the ancient, the earliest gods were all related to nature. It is later on when we became settled societies that our focus was on stability and wealth. Hence, goddesses like Lakshmi. Hence, preserving gods like Vishnu. Got it? But right now, we are not settled. And as a result, students, you will see that the gods that we are worshipping are more associated with nature, and in that context, the most important god of the Rigvedic period is Indra. Most of the hymns are dedicated to Indra. After that, in importance, we have Agni, Mitra and Varun. Now, when I talk about these hymns, or Rigved as an entire source, it is a collection of 10 books, students, which are known as mandals. It will be very important to note that the 2nd to 9th mandal was created during the Rigvedic period, whereas the 1st and the 10th mandal were created in the later Vedic period. After Agni, it's Mitra. Mitra. What is Mitra? Friend god. What is Mitra? मित्र शब्द किस लिए यूज करते हैं? पर्यायवाची होते हैं हिंदी में कहीं. मित्र, आदित्य. Which god is Mitra? It's sun god. Mitra is the term which is associated with sun. So indeed Aditya is also fine, but it's sun. So it's a collection of 10 books. 2nd to 9th Rigvedic period, 1st to 10th later Vedic period. Why am I specifically mentioning this to you students? Is because when we proceed towards the later Vedic period, you will see changes in the society and economy. For instance, the Varna system will be starting in the later Vedic period. Now, I tell you that the Varna system is mentioned in Rigved. So you will be like, but ma'am, there was no Varna system in the Rigvedic period. It will automatically be understood in a manner that is written in the 1st or the 10th mandal. समझ में आया? If there is a mention which seems like an anomaly with respect to the original features of Rigved, it automatically tells us that they are written in the 1st or the 10th mandal, which was composed later in the later Vedic period. Okay, the major gods are Indra, Agni, Mitra, Varun. In fact, students, you will see there were many female goddesses as well, which were worshipped during what? During the Rigvedic period. Specifically, we have two famous goddesses, which is Usha and Aditi, and these are goddesses of dawn. What is dawn? सुबह. सुबह हो रही है? Yes? All right. So we have understood about the pantheon. We know these are nature gods. Why are we worshipping nature and fertility spirits? Even in the Harappan civilization, we were worshipping fertility spirits. Here also we are worshipping nature and fertility gods. We are dependent on it. It's a very beautiful line. Your gods will change according to your subsistence method. Yes? And that is why you will see at the end of the later Vedic period, when Mahajanpads will be emerging, the pantheon will completely change. We will no longer be worshipping Indra. Okay? So, when we talk about the collection, when we talk about the major gods with respect to the Rigvedic period, this is going to be your pantheon. Moreover, you have to also understand the nature. We know it's a religious source. We know there are a lot of richas or hymns which are written dedicated to these gods. The third thing is, what is the nature of these hymns that are written? So basically, students, you will see in the Rigvedic period, we see presence of a lot of yagya. ये spelling होती है, confuse नहीं होना. It's not yajna, it's yagya. Okay, so there is presence of yagya, but these yagya are done on a community basis. The idea of conducting a yagya in contemporary times is what? How do you conduct a yagya? सारे community आके बैठती है क्या आपके? सबको बुला लेते हैं? There's an individual person who will start the yagya. That person is known as yajman. पंडित बोलते हैं ना, यजमान बैठेंगे. Yes? So, keeping that in mind, if you talk about the nature of worship in the Rigvedic period, it is community worship. Community rituals are offered. Independent rituals are not a part of it. What are we reciting as a part of these community rituals and yagya? These incorporate the hymns and the prayers that were written in Rigved. If I say that there is individualism in the worship practices of Rigved, is it true or false? If I say there is a spirit of collectivism in the religious practices of Rigved, is it true or false? Okay, so I know the nature of worship. I know the kinds of gods and goddesses that were worshipped. Moreover, I know that two mandals which are titled as the first and the 10th mandal are composed later, whereas the second to 9th mandal are composed earlier. Okay. Apart from that, we see students that when we talk about Rigvedic period as a source of history, another question that comes to our mind is that ठीक है मैम, भगवान के बारे में तो पता चल गया, लेकिन आप जो ये पॉलिटी, सोसाइटी, इकोनॉमी की बात करो, ये हमको कैसे पता चल रहा है? What happens, students, when we talk about Rigved, it makes incidental references. It makes incidental references to geographical locations, to the tribes, and to the economic nature. For instance, we have mention of गऊ. इसको सब्सटैंशिएट करके बताती हूं. पहली लाइन मैंने आपको स्टार्टिंग में बोली, बेटा द नंबरिंग इज डन इन दैट वे. डोंट फ्रेट अबाउट व्हाई इज द नंबरिंग इन डन दैट वे. आई डोंट थिंक इट इज stopping you from understanding any point. Relax. The numbering is done in such a way that it is first to 10th mandal. Content wise, when we analyzed it later on, we realized that the contents of first and 10th mandal do not match a lot with the second to 9th mandal. Hence, they may have been composed later. Okay. All right. Okay. So, when I talk about the other information, it's not direct. What am I doing? I'm trying to read between the lines and extract the information. In that context, first information that I had given to you is that these people pointed out that we live in Sapta Sindhu. Yes, we live in Sapta Sindhu area, and that automatically gives me an incidental reference of a geographical area. In the 7th mandal of Rigved, I find name of a battle which is known as Dashrajanya War, or the Battle of 10 Kings. That battle is giving me names of multiple tribes. Another incidental reference which will help me in understanding the political relations, the political organization in the later Rigvedic period. Apart from that, if I talk about the term Gau, it has been used so many times that I understand that cattle may have been very, very important in the Rigvedic period, and hence I know that the economy is pastoral. Apart from that, some extra points with respect to Rigved. Third mandal, I find the mention of a mantra which is known as Gayatri mantra. In the third mandal of Rigved, we find Gayatri mantra. We have Gayatri mantra. It was composed by Vishwamitra. Gayatri mantra is dedicated to which god? Please don't say Gayatri. Correct. It's Surya. My first lecture, when first attempt पे किसने सही बोला है? Otherwise, half of the people will like Gayatri. Gayatri mantra is Gayatri. So, the third mandal, we have Gayatri, the term Gayatri mantra, which was composed by Vishwamitra. Some factual points, maybe if it comes as a statement based question. Okay. Moreover, although it's very difficult to find such kind of question in GS1, but for practice purposes, we can literally turn around this particular point into a question. How can you use Rigved as a source of history? Or, despite being religious in nature, Rigved can be used to understand about the economy, polity and the society of the Rigvedic period. Comment. And then you will say that although the nature is religious, these are the gods that we focus upon, but there are incidental references. For example, the mention of cow, the mention of Battle of 10 Kings. अभी आगे मैं आपको Battle of 10 Kings भी पढ़ाऊंगी, तो आप उसको वहां से substantiate कर सकते हैं. When we are studying in the class, we go in a linear manner, but every slide is connected to the other one. And when you will go back and read it again, then only you will be able to realize it. Okay? चलिए, इसी के साथ आगे बढ़ेंगे. हेडिंग देंगे ऋग्वेदिक इकोनॉमी and material culture. Rigvedic economy and material culture. ठीक है, ओके। तुम ही बताओ, हाउ इज द इकोनॉमी लाइक? हाउ इज द इकोनॉमी लाइक? बोर्ड पे लिखा है, अब तो बोल दो। इट्स पेस्टोरल इकोनॉमी. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय पेस्टोरल? Cattle rearing people whose focus is on animal domestication. In that context, students, why do I know that the Rigvedic people were cattle rearing pastoral people? It is because these are the different names that I find associated with the term gau or cow, and this shows the importance of cow in the Rigvedic society. For instance, the chief of any Rigvedic tribe was known as Gopati. The king of any Rigvedic tribe was known as Gopati. And by Gopati we means protector of cows. So it was a duty of the chief of the Rigvedic king to protect cows. And this simply tells us the significance of cow in the Rigvedic society. Understood? These are multiple terms and meanings which you can directly take from the slide and try to remember them. The point is that there are multiple terms that start with the term gau to show us the importance that is placed on this particular animal in the Rigvedic period. In that context, what will I derive? We are a pastoral cattle rearing society, and because of that we are nomadic in nature. Okay. The second question that I will ask myself here is that I know agriculture is not happening, but there's a difference between knowing about it. Okay. I am not driving. That's a different thing. But do I know how to drive? That's another question. So, another question that we have to answer here is that did Rigvedic Aryans know about agriculture? Did they have the knowledge of agriculture? But I'll share the slide with you, don't worry. So, this is the next question that we have to answer, whether these people were aware of agriculture or not. The answer is yes, they were aware how agriculture was done. How do I know it? There is a term in Rigved known as yav. Yav means barley. So, the Rigvedic people were actually practicing agriculture, but at a very minute scale. They were practicing agriculture only to produce fodder. What is fodder? Food for the cattle. Okay. They were practicing agriculture at a very small scale, students. And why do I know that? Because there's a term known as yav. Let's turn it into a question. With respect to the Rigvedic period, the term yav refers to, and 4 options. Answer will be barley. And what do I derive from it in a subjective manner? That the Rigvedic people knew about agriculture, but these people were not doing agriculture, only producing fodder. Got it? They are still cattle rearing societies and they are nomadic in nature. All right. Let's proceed further. Material culture में आपने दोबारा repeat नहीं करी. One is PGW. I hope you know, minus iron tools. We have done it multiple times. Okay. One more thing in economy. Taxes. When we talk about the Rigvedic period, okay, when we talk about the Rigvedic period, students, you will see it's a very unique thing. So there is no taxation system, okay? There is no taxation system, but we have presence of a voluntary tax which is known as bali. This voluntary tax was generally not given by the people to the king. Rather, whenever there used to be a battle between two tribes, then the losing tribe used to pay bali to the winning tribe. It's a voluntary tax. In fact, the Rig Vedic period is so desirable in the context that the Vedic king, the tribal king, used to give gifts to the people of the tribe so that they are happy. समझ में आया? The king is giving gifts to the people to keep them happy, and there is no proper taxation system in the Rig Vedic period. We do have presence of one tax, which is bali, but it is a voluntary tax which was generally given by the losing tribe to the winning tribe. When I say losing and winning tribe, my next question to you students is that why will the two tribes of the Rig Vedic culture fight? What will they fight over? Exactly. So the main bone of contention, exactly Yatre, it's correct. The main bone of contention, students, between the tribes was that they used to steal each other's cattle. That was in fact the main source of wealth creation. इस टाइम पे कोई पैसे तो है नहीं, लैंड हमारे लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है ही नहीं. क्यों? क्योंकि हम तो नोमैडिक हैं. यस, दैट इज व्हाई द मेन सोर्स ऑफ वेल्थ फॉर अस इज कैटल. इसने मेरी गाय चुरा ली, उसने मेरी गाय चुरा ली, ये है लड़ाई. Okay, and that is why we see if there is a battle that is happening between two tribes, majorly it is over the possession of cattle. Whenever we go for a war in the Rig Vedic period, we invoke one god, and that is Indra. Indra was also known as Purandhar, who is the breaker of forts. When do we invoke him? We invoke him during the event of battle, and the battle happens between two tribes over possession of cattle. Okay, this is the connotation which is given to him, that he is considered to be the destroyer of forts. He has this natural power. Who is Indra? Indra is the god of thunder. So the power association with him is something. You don't have to take it in a literal reference. Okay? हाँ बेटा.
So there may be some reason of force and an alliance can
see fort when you use there is fortification. I'll simply give you the answer. The question is very invalid, first of all, in the first place. So we have fortification in multiple cities of the Harappan civilization. There's a difference between fort and fortification. We have done that fortification because of not any external threat. We had done that fortification majorly because there was threats of flooding. Okay, with respect to the Rig Vedic people, you will see they are not as advanced. Okay, and in fact there is complete absence of baked bricks. We are not using this kind of construction material at all. The usage of baked bricks again will be seen during the second urbanization period. Alright, so right now it's a very tribal and egalitarian culture. This concept of urbanization which comes with town planning and trading is largely absent from the Rig Vedic period. Okay, अब सुनेंगे Rig Vedic society and social divisions. Economy की बात कर चुकी हूँ मैं, कौन लोग मेरे लैंड को इनहेबिट कर रहे हैं उनकी बात कर चुकी हूँ मैं. अब what are the social divisions in my country, in my Rig Vedic civilization? I'm going to talk about that. In that context, do you think the idea of Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra is available here? That division is already done. Do you think? Is the Varna system flourishing in the Rig Vedic period? No. The concept of Varna system will begin in the later Vedic period. However, we do find the term Varn. However, we do find the term Varn in the Rig Veda, but it is found in the 10th Mandal. Got it? It is found in the 10th Mandal. Indeed, Shweta, it is later Vedic period. So, I know that there is no Varna classification which is happening. But despite this, the society is stratified and it is divided on the basis of multiple professions. Multiple professions की अगर बात करी जाए, so we have priests, we have warriors, we have people who are cattle rearers, we have craft people such as chariot makers. आयरन नहीं यूज हो रहा तो क्या हुआ, कॉपर का सामान तो बन रहा है, and some people may be making it. Yes, so we have multiple people performing different kind of crafts such as chariot making. We have coppersmiths. So the society is stratified on the basis of profession, but the exact concept of Varna system, wherein we have classification of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, is something which will be incorporated only in the later Vedic period. Society is stratified or not? Yes, ma'am. How? On the basis of profession. What kind of profession students are flourishing here? Ma'am, we have priests, we have warriors, we have people who are working with respect to pasture and cattle rearing. Apart from that, we have chariot makers, we have coppersmiths, etc. Okay. Now, the second question is that, is there any racial segregation that is going on in the Rigvedic period? It is. In fact, R.S. Sharma tells us students this term Varn can be used to denote color. In the Rigvedic period, this term may have been used to denote color. The term black was multiple times used in Vedic and later Vedic texts. And that term black is not only used to denote iron, it is also used to denote the skin color of the original inhabitants. In that context, it is suggested by R.S. Sharma that this Varn term may have been used to denote color, and this color is used to segregate between the Rigvedic Aryans, the Das and the Dasyus. At multiple occasions, the Rigvedic Aryans are soft towards the Das category, but they were hostile towards Dasyus because they looked quite different from them. Okay, so the term Varn may have been used to denote color, and this leads to the segregation of Das, Dasyus and Rigvedic Aryans. Okay. Whenever I tell you the heading of society, you will always ask me two things. Ma'am, what is the position of different Varn and what is the position of women in the society? Right now, Varn as a concept has not emerged only. So the next question that you are going to ask me with respect to society will be that, ma'am, what was the position of women in the Rigvedic period? In that context, you tell me. पढ़ा होगा, popular है काफी. Position of women in the Rigvedic period. It's a patriarchal society. Okay. What else? But they were irrespectively, we can say, had a more elevated position in the society. So, although the Rigvedic society is patriarchal and birth of a son is desired, irrespective, women hold an elevated status in the Rigvedic society. Now, this is something wherein I have made a statement. What will I do now? I will substantiate it with examples. In my examples, I would like to say that first of all, women were allowed to receive education. Education, even in the contemporary times, is the platform which can be taken help of to become or get a better position in the society. So naturally, if women were allowed to receive an education, they were faring much well. In that context, how do I know that women were allowed to receive an education? It is because there are many richas or Rigvedic hymns which are composed by female poetesses, female rishikas, such as Appal, Lopamudra, Ghosh, Gargi, etc. I am substantiating the statement that women had a elevated position in the Rigvedic society. You will ask me how? How do you know? I'll tell you that students, the women were allowed to receive an education. Ma'am, how do you know? Because there are multiple Rigvedic hymns which are composed by female poetesses such as Apal, Ghosh, Lopamudra, etc. Apart from that, students, you will see that the concepts of sati and all are absent. There is no concept of sati in this particular time period. In fact, widow remarriage was not frowned upon. It was allowed on multiple occasions. The concept of child marriage is absent in Rigvedic period. Women could choose their partners and were allowed to marry late in age. So, the notion of child marriage is largely absent. Yes, good point. हाँ, ये भी बताते हैं. इसको political history में लिखेंगे. ठीक है? But okay, you write this point here as well. Women were allowed to participate in Vedic assemblies. I will elaborate that when we are doing the political structure. ठीक है? Okay. So we have spoken about the Rigvedic society, students, and we have spoken about the social divisions. There are social divisions on the basis of profession, but largely the notion of Varna system is absent. The society is divided on the warrior, priestly classes, etc. Okay, but there is racial segregation that can be seen. That racial segregation is done in the context of Rigvedic Aryans, Das and Dasyus. Clear? Position of women is comparatively elevated because they are allowed to receive an education. ठीक है भाई? Political structure. If I talk about the political structure, of the Rigvedic period, students, you will see, first of all, we are a tribal egalitarian society wherein the Rigvedic people are divided into multiple tribes. इसको imagine कैसे करेंगे? We have a movie Black Panther. Although they all belong to Wakanda, but there are different groups. Yes, we have the hill tribe, then we have the border tribe, etc. But they are all from Wakanda. Similarly, they are all Rigvedic Aryans, but they are divided into multiple tribes. When we talk about these multiple tribes, the manner in which they are functioning is that they are egalitarian in nature. So my question to you is, what is egalitarian? All are equal distribution of power between the people of a particular tribe. These are tribal and egalitarian societies wherein their representative or the head of a tribe was known as Rajan. It will be interesting to note that this Rajan was not a hereditary ruler, it was elected. It was an elected head of the tribe. In that context, the next question will be, ma'am, who elects the Raja? So, here to elect the Raja or to take decisions for the tribe, we have presence of Vedic assemblies. And students, when I talk about Vedic assemblies, tell me something. Are women allowed to participate in them? Yes. So we have two major Vedic assemblies, which is Sabha and Samiti. The oldest Rigvedic assembly was known as Vidhata. This is the oldest assembly. Another popular assembly is Gan. Gan was a military assembly and possibly lesser role of women in this. Let's focus on Sabha and Samiti. जो आप सभा के बारे में सोच रहे हैं उसका उल्टा होगा और जो आप समिति के बारे में सोच रहे हैं उसका उल्टा होगा. When we use the term Sabha, it seems that all the people of the tribe will be a part of Sabha. But Sabha is an assembly of selected elder members of the society. Selected elder members will be a part of Sabha. And they will perform judicial functions. माने justice. कुछ गड़बड़ भी तो करते होंगे ना लोग. Yes? So these people are allowed to dispense justice. Who are they? They are the elder members of the society, of the tribe. Now, when I talk about Samiti, it seems like it must be a smaller assembly. But Samiti will encapsulate all the people of the tribe. And it is Samiti which is given the power to elect the king. So what is the main function of Samiti, students? Election of king, and women are also participating in that election. Clear? Apart from the Rajan or the Raja, Raja को और क्या बोलते हैं? Gopati. Gopati means what? Protector of cows. Okay. So, apart from the Raja, another most important position in the Rigvedic tribe was given to Purohit. Who is Purohit, students? He is the priest. This guy will be conducting rituals. This guy will be conducting rituals, and in that context, students, you will see that when we talk about Purohit, his position will gradually elevate in the society along with the Raja. This Purohit at this point of time is conducting individual rituals. True or false? He is actually performing collective rituals on behalf of the tribe. True? ठीक है. So when we talk about Purohit, he is responsible for having this collective gathering of the people, and then we will offer prayers. ठीक है भाई. Apart from that, we have some terms such as Gramani, Senani, Vrajpati. Vrajpati, students, is the head of pasture lands. Now my question to you is that, is he the owner of pasture lands? Do we have the concept of private property in Rigvedic period? It is a community owned land. And moreover, is land an important thing for that matter in the Rigvedic period? Why? We are pastoral nomadic people. We travel from one place to another, ma'am. Right now, our importance, our identity is associated with the tribe. Today, when we are born in this country, our very first identity is associated with the land. We are Indians. And after that, every identity is secondary. But in the Rigvedic period, your first identity was the name of your tribe. Okay. So right now at this moment, territory is not very important for us. It is the name of the tribe. But as we proceed further in time and reach the Mahajanpat period, territory becomes more important over tribe. Alright. So here I know this is Vrajpati and he is the head of pasture land. And since This is the mainstay of the economy. Vrajpati must have held an elevated position in the society. हर किसी के हाथ में थोड़ी दे देंगे. Yes. Apart from that, if I use this term Gramani, what do you think it is? Yes, I knew head of village. Many students will say that, but that's wrong. That's why I asked you. Gramani is not head of village, but as you proceed further in time, when you go towards the Mauryan period, post-Mauryan period, this term will be used to denote the head of village. Right now, Gramani is the guy who is the head of fighting hordes. In that context, if you ask me, ma'am, what is head of fighting hordes? Do we have a standing army here? But do we have battles? So, do we have a trained army? No. What happens? Let's say imagine करते हैं, काफी funny imagination है, खुशी खुशी मेरी तरह imagine क्या करो हिस्ट्री को. आराम से बैठे हैं, गाय वाय चल रही है, ग्रामानी आया एंड ग्रामानी इज लड़ाई होगी, चलो सब ठीक है, कौन जाएगा मरने? मैं तो नहीं जाऊं, तुम जाओगे? तो लेके जाना पड़ता है, चलो ठीक है. यू हैव टू गैदर द मैन पावर. At that point of time, we don't have a trained army. Okay, and this guy is responsible for arranging the fighting hordes during the time of battle. All right. So right now the meaning of this term is different. Later on, indeed, as we proceed further in time, in the Mahajanpad period and further, Gramani indeed is the head of the village. Okay, and then we have Senani. Is this Senani head of army or is this a soldier? Are these trained soldiers? Gun chala rahe hain? Then these are those people who are well built, okay, and can be used during the time of battle. Okay, somebody who has fighting experience or fighters. Simply likho fighters. What are we trying to do? We are trying to understand the political structure. Are we a monarchy? No. We are in fact kind of a self-governing republic. Why are we a republic? Because people are allowed to elect their king. Okay. Apart from that, do we have any private ownership? No. We only have community ownership. Even the rituals are done on a community basis, not on a family basis. All right. Do we have the Varn system? No. Varn system will emerge in the later Vedic period. Vrajpati is the head of pasture land. Vrajpati is the head of pasture land. ठीक है भाई. Let's talk about the last topic, which is tribal conflicts. When I talk about the presence of multiple tribes, I hope you are able to now imagine that although they are Rigvedic people, but they are also divided into multiple tribes. The example that I gave you was from Wakanda. Apart from that, we have another tribes of the Das, and then we also have Dasyus. Now the idea is that during a battle, apart from your direct enemy, wherever you will get advantage, they will become your friends. In that context, especially when battles used to happen, you would see the enmity between the Das and the Rigvedic people used to generally subside, considering if they have a common enemy. So, either there are intertribal conflicts within the Rigvedic people or they are fighting with the Das people. Dasyus, immediately they will capture and make them slaves because they used to consider them lower because of their dark skin. Okay, keeping that in mind, in the 7th mandal of Rigved, the very first war apparently in the history of the world has been mentioned, and that is the battle of 10 kings or Dashrajanya war. In that context, students, on one side we have a tribe which is known as the Bharat clan. In fact, this nomenclature has been used to define the name of our country in the first place. Okay, so we have Bharat clan on the one side versus we have 10 kings who have gathered their powers together. In this, we have 5 Aryan tribes and we have 5 non-Aryan tribes. That is why from the beginning I told you that there are badalte rishte, especially when it's the event of battle. Okay, Keeping that in mind, we have 5 Aryan, 5 non-Aryan tribes, and here we have the Bharat clan. They are going to clash on the banks of Parshuni river. Which river? Ravi river. Who will win? Bharat clan will win. Now, when I talk about Bharat clan, it wins. And out of these tribes which have been defeated by him, by this clan, we find that there is a tribe whose name is Puru. This Puru tribe will come to meet the people of the Bharat clan and they will ask them to join hands with them. The Puru tribe will join hands with the Bharat tribe. And together, this tribe combined will be known as the Kuru tribe. Have you heard of this tribe ever, this clan ever? Kuru clan is the main theme of Mahabharat. So, you will write that after the defeat, Puru clan joined hands with Bharat, leading to the formation of Kuru clan, which is the main theme of Mahabharat. Okay? This Kuru clan students will step out of Punjab and Haryana and will start expanding eastwards towards the state of Uttar Pradesh. These people will be occupying the Indo-Gangetic Doab region, specifically bole to upper portion of Uttar Pradesh. When these people will be expanding in the upper portion of Uttar Pradesh, we find that in the middle Gangetic Doab region, again it's a part of Uttar Pradesh only, there is another tribe which is going to go and settle there. That tribe, ये कहां पर जा रहे हैं? अपर दोआब पोर्शन. कौन सा दोआब है ये? इंडो गैंजेटिक. आपका गैंजेटिक दोआब रीजन है. सिंपल बोले तो यूपी. उसके अलावा एक और क्लैन है अपने पास, उनका नाम है पांचाल. ये लोग कौन सा एरिया ऑक्यूपाई कर रहे हैं? मिडिल पोर्शन ऑफ गैंजेटिक दोआब. दे आर ऑक्यूपाइंग middle portion of Gangetic Doab. It is suggested that at the end of the Rigvedic period and the beginning of the later Vedic period, there will be a Kuru Panchal land which will be occupied by these two tribes, and they will start the habitation of the Gangetic Doab region, or we say that there is expansion happening in the area of Uttar Pradesh. ऋग्वेद तक मैप अलग था, लेटर वैदिक पीरियड में मैप बदल जाएगा. वी आर एक्सपैंडिंग, और स्टेट वाइज देखें तो कहां एक्सपैंड कर रहे हैं? अब हम उत्तर प्रदेश की तरफ एक्सपैंड कर रहे हैं. क्लियर? So with this students, our discussion of the Rigvedic period is complete. If I talk, I will do a quick recap. ठीक है, हमारे पास में वन वर्ड के आंसर होने चाहिए. इकोनॉमी कैसी है? हाउ इज द इकोनॉमी? पेस्टोरल. What is the lifestyle of the people? Are they settled or nomadic? They are nomadic. Okay. If I talk about the political organization, it is, the society is egalitarian. If I talk about the political organization, we do have a head, but he is elected. Do we have any representative organizations? Yes. Sabha Samiti. Are women allowed in these organizations? Do we have a proper taxation system? Do we have an army? Okay. What is the name of a voluntary tax? Bali. Not Bali, Bali. Okay. All right. If I talk about expansion from the Rigvedic to the later Vedic period, which new state are we occupying? ठीक है? All right. Which are the two mandals which were composed in the later Vedic period? First and 10th. Gayatri Mantra is in which mandal? Third mandal. Who composed Gayatri Mantra? Is Vishnu an important god in Rigved? Do we find female goddesses in Rigved? Is child marriage a norm in the Rigvedic period? All right. चल समझ में आ रहा है क्या? Is it very difficult? It's not boring also. हंसते रहा करो, ठीक है? Otherwise I'll feel sleepy. Okay. Second part of the Vedic period, later Vedic period. We have taken more time in comparison to understand the Rigvedic period. Why? Because the transformation will be very easy to understand at the end of the day. Okay. I would like to give you a perspective with which I study Rigvedic period, later Vedic period and Mahajanpad period. What do? I divide my page into three parts. 1, 2, 3. Here I write Rigvedic period. Here I write later Vedic period. And then I write second urbanization. We'll do this exercise once we are done with second urbanization. In that context, I would like to give you a small peek. And that small peek, students, is that you will see that the later Vedic period is the sandwich stage between Rigvedic and the second urbanization period, wherein there are some elements of Rigvedic period which are continuing in the later Vedic period and some elements of second urbanization which started here. Hence, later Vedic period can be classically defined as a period of continuity and change. In that context, continuous elements of Rigvedic period. In the name of change, we have some elements which will lead towards the second urbanization. So once we are done with the second urbanization, we'll do this exercise wherein we'll divide the time period into these three time periods: economy, polity, society, and see the changes that had occurred. Okay. Right now, with respect to later Vedic period, we are going to have a quick review of the new literature that has been produced. Apart from that, I had told you that there is some expansion which is happening in the later Vedic period. We have already discussed it. I'll give you a quick review of the same. Apart from that, we are going to talk about economy, the society in which we are going to specifically focus upon the religion. Okay. Also, students, in the later Vedic period, you will find the concept of Varna system emerging. So, in that context, we are also going to talk about the Varna system. And there are two more concepts that we are going to discuss here as well. Okay, rest I will tell you on the way. चलिए, सबसे पहले literature की बात करते हैं. You tell me, what are the new things that are composed in the later Vedic period? Other three Veds. Before that, one more thing I had already told you in the Rigvedic period. Let's start with the very beginning. Arrange करते हैं ठीक से. Rigved, first and 10th mandal. What else? We have Samaved, we have Yajurved, and then we have Atharva Ved. Anything else? Anything else? I told you, read NCERT in advance. We have composition of two different literary texts which are known as the okay. So we have Rigved, we have Samved, we have Yajurved, we have Atharved, then we have Brahmans and Aranyak. We have Brahman and Aranyak. Yes, it's right, Shashi. Upanishads, abhi time hai. Not at the beginning, but at a later stage. Rigved, first and 10th mandal are composed. Okay. Samved students, when we talk about Samved, this book is nothing but an extension of Rigved. In that context, with respect to Rigved, 72 new sukta were added. Some new sukta were added in the Samved, and the most important aspect to focus upon in Samved is that it is lyrical in nature, which means you sing the richas which are written in Samved. Because of its lyrical and musical nature, Samved is considered to be the oldest book on Indian music. Let's talk about Yajurved. When I say Yajurved students, Yajurved is one book that talks about the manner in which the rituals should be conducted. So it is talking about, it is defining the processes of rituals and sacrifices. होता है ना, यज्ञ की विधि ये है, ये सामग्री लगेगी, etc. So when we talk about Yajurved, explains the process of rituals. Let's talk about the last source students, which is Atharvaved. It will be very interesting to note, first of all, that Atharvaved is a non-Aryan Ved. It is a non-Aryan Ved, which means it is not composed by the Aryans. Simple. It's a non-Aryan Ved, which means it is not composed by the Aryans. Do we have any other categories living in our country? It apparently contains a content which may have been, composed by the people whom we identify as the successors of Harappans. So, basically, the content of Atharvaved, for that matter, is quite unique and different in comparison to the other three Ved. If you look at the index, today you go back home, you Google the index of Atharvaved. It's very unique in comparison. So basically it contains charms and spells to ward off diseases. Simple भाषा में बोले तो थोड़ा झाड़ा फूकी वाली चीजें हो सकती है, मे बी इसके अंदर इन्वॉल्व. ठीक है. By the way, is it something that happens even in contemporary times? Does it? Yes. बचपन में एक झाड़ा तो सबको ही लगा होगा. Yes. There are certain diseases also, students, in which we tend to go for this, especially things like chicken pox and all. Okay. So keeping that in mind, students, the kind of content which is mentioned in Atharvaved is quite unique. It contains charms and spells to ward off diseases. But it is a very important historical source, because even if it is talking about charms and spells, but it is also talking about diseases. And that is why we come to know about a lot of diseases which were flourishing in this particular time period. Apart from that, Atharvaved also talks about certain plants which have medicinal qualities. Okay, so in that context, although the content is quite unique in comparison to the other three Vedas, but it is a very important historical source. So, यहाँ पर आप लिखेंगे it is non-Aryan in tradition, and the content is to ward off. It contains charms and spells to ward off diseases. I cannot make such bold statements, Mohammed. Okay. Let's talk about Brahmins. This is not your that Brahman, which is a part of your Varna system. Okay. This Brahman is a literary genre. Okay. It's a genre of literature. What is genre? There are genres in movies. You go for a romantic movie, you go for a comedy movie, you go for a sci-fi. इसी तरह से there is fiction, there is non-fiction. Yes, so we see it's a literary genre and it's a different kind of book altogether in the Vedic literature corpus. When we talk about Brahmans, these are books which are attached to each Ved. Every Ved has Brahmans attached to it. What is the importance, what is the significance of Brahmans? Basically, they try to explain to you the social significance, significance of rituals. In that context, if I tell you very simply, they are telling you the importance of any particular ritual. Let's say some random person tells you that pick up this bottle and इसको आप दीवार पे चढ़ा दीजिए. आप बोलेंगे क्यों? ठीक है, मन में सवाल तो आएगा. So they are trying to explain to us the significance of the rituals that are happening. Apart from that, they explain the content of Rig Veda or any other Veds in a more simplified manner. Every Brahman, every Ved has Brahmans attached to it. Okay. Apart from that, students, we have another literary source which is a part of your Vedic corpus, and these are known as Aranyak. The root word in Aranyak is Aranya. What do you mean by Aranya? It's a forest. That is why these books are also literally translated as forest books. These books contains philosophical enquiries. They contain philosophical enquiries that are studied at a later stage of life. At a later stage of life. When I say philosophical inquiries, when I say metaphysical questions, what do you think? What do you think can be incorporated in such questions? When I say philosophical inquiries, metaphysical questions, questions on existence. Who am I? What is my purpose? Is there a God? How is the universe created? ठीक है, इस तरह के philosophical inquiries. What is the duty of a man? Okay, so all of these philosophical inquiries are something. These kind of questions are incorporated in multiple books of Hindu scriptures, and in that one such books are known as Aranyak. They are considered to be studied later, at a later stage in life, because you need to have that kind of acumen to even resolve such kind of questions. These are some extra literature that has been produced in the later Vedic period. ये बात को याद रखना है, ठीक है? So basically, literature, languages and literature is an aspect of art and culture also. And apart from that, you will also encounter it while you're reading social, political and economic history. UPSC, with respect to your prelims and even your mains paper, is very fond of the literature aspect. We have got questions on Persian literary sources. We have got questions on Chinese and Arab travelers. And what are these? These are Sanskrit sources. This is Sanskrit literature. So maybe how we had got a question on the Persian literary sources, you may also be asked on similar lines to write something about the Sanskrit literature. And when we talk about Sanskrit literature, the earliest corpus is the Vedic corpus. And what does it encapsulate? It encapsulates your 4 Ved. It encapsulates Brahmans and Aranyaks. Clear? Okay. Let's proceed further and talk about the expansion and ceramic culture. This I've already taught to you though. Okay, what is the ceramic culture? PGW plus iron tools. Define the nature of iron tools for me. Agricultural tools. सब चले जाओ बाहर. Are we reading Mahajanpat period? These are just 3 points to remember. I don't think it's rocket science. Define the nature of the iron tools that are found in the later Vedic period. Yes, it's correct, Mohammed Karishma Atre. These are hunting tools. Agricultural tools means agricultural plow. Do we have iron plow here? No. अगर होता तो महाजनपद पीरियड अभी नहीं आ जाता क्या? Yes. So keeping that in mind, we have PGW and iron tools, but the iron tools are hunting tools. Okay. Because of that, there is no agricultural surplus in the later Vedic period. But one thing is for sure, that we have started doing agriculture in the later Vedic period. How do I know? Because in the later Vedic text, especially Yajurved, I find terms such as Vrihi, Sali and Tandula. And what does it mean? It means rice. I am trying to understand about the material culture of the later Vedic period. I know there is PGW, but there is also beginning of Iron Age. Despite the fact that we are using iron, we are not using it in agriculture. Instead, we are using it as hunting tools. At the same time, the economy of the later Vedic period is mixed, wherein we are partially pastoral people and we have also started doing agriculture. In that context, we are growing wheat, and in Yajurved specifically, we find terms such as Vrihi, Sali and Tandula, which refers to rice. So, rice and wheat are becoming a staple diet of the later Vedic period. If I say we are now an agricultural economy, is it correct? No. Then what are we? Mixed. It's a mix of pastoralism and agriculture. That is why on the first slide, I divided the slide in 3 parts, and I told you that later Vedic period is going to be a sandwich period, wherein there are some elements of Rig Vedic period and some elements that you will also see in the Mahajanpad period. Mahajanpad period completely agrarian. Rig Vedic period, we have pastoral nomadic people. Later Vedic period, thoda agriculture, thoda pastoralism. Okay. Although we do not have agriculture, but we are gradually moving towards becoming a settled society. Why do I claim that? How can I claim that? I am telling you, although there is no use of iron plow, there is no agricultural surplus. Despite that, we are gradually moving towards becoming a settled society. Why do I say that? Exactly, correct. Surplus नहीं है, agriculture तो हो रहा है, धीरे धीरे पहुंच जाएंगे वहां तक. Yes. So this is the idea wherein I am telling you it's a transformative period. ये आपके tools, iron tools created in the later Vedic period. Okay, these are hunting tools. चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं. Changes in the economy, although I have already told you some points. In that, we say we are a mixed economy, wherein there is still element of pastoralism, and on the other hand, agriculture on a limited scale has begun. Pastoral because we still have cattle on which we rely. When I talk about agriculture, I have told you we are producing rice, we are producing wheat. These are staple crops. We have some more crops also. With respect to agriculture, I know that iron plow is absent, but agriculture is happening. Hence, I know that these people may have been using a plow which was made of wood. Look at this image as well. It's a wood plow. It's a wooden plow. Because I am using a wooden plow and not an iron plow, it will prevent agricultural surplus. इकोनॉमी का स्टूडेंट्स एक और एस्पेक्ट होता है विच इज ट्रेड. ऋग्वेदिक पीरियड, no trade. There's no even, we don't even have mention of any kind of trade. Okay. But in the later Vedic period, you will see that trade will gradually begin. Just remember the time of Harappan civilization. Entire civilization was dependent on that long distance trade which was happening. But after the decline of the Harappan civilization, we see that this urban element has gone from our society. It will gradually start to gain power again when in the later Vedic period, wherein you will find traces of trade. In fact, you will also find mention of sea voyages in the later Vedic period, indicating that we are trying to trade via waters. Third aspect, taxes. When I say taxes, do we have a proper taxation system in the Rigvedic period? Do we encounter name of any tax? Bali. What is Bali? It's a voluntary tax. देना है तो दो, नहीं तो मत दो. क्या बलि जो है हम रेगुलरली पब्लिक से एक्सट्रैक्ट कर रहे थे? नहीं. It was on the events of war wherein the losing tribe generally used to give bali to the winning tribe. Moreover, king was responsible for gifting to the people of the tribe. Why? Because he was an elected head और उसको अपने लोगों को प्रजा को खुश रखना था. Got it? Here students you will see that we still have bali, but in the later Vedic period the Raja will become greedy. And the Raja will try his level best to make Bali a permanent tax. So in that context, right now, since we have not read the political organization as of yet, you will write only one point. The Raja tried to make Bali a permanent tax. A permanent tax. Please keep it in mind that I have specifically made you write the Raja tried to. I did not give you a statement that Bali is now a permanent tax. It will only happen in the Mahajanpad period. And that is why the later Vedic period is a transition stage. कोशिश चल रही है एग्रीकल्चर करने की, कोशिश चल रही है टैक्स को कंप्लीटली एक सिस्टम बनाने की. ओके. All right. Finally, we have reached that particular point wherein we are seeing the changes in the society. In that context, the Varna system that we speak about, which is the differentiation of the society into 4 categories or 4 Varna, that is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. This differentiation on paper will come for the first time in the later Vedic period. But students, when we talk about the nature of the Varna system, did it start as something which is assigned on the basis of your birth, on birth? Is Varna given to you at your birth? Is this how the Varna system started? Is it something which is done on the basis of the birth? No. Exactly. When you talk about, indeed, it's correct, Mohammed, we'll see that when we talk about the Varna system, students, it started, the differentiation started on the basis of profession. We have a priestly class, we have a warrior class, we have traders, and accordingly, we divided them into 4 categories, which is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Okay. The idea of assigning a Varna at birth is something which will crystallize only in the Mahajanpad period. So right now, I would say that the fourfold classification of the Varna system is something that had appeared in the later Vedic period, but it is rudimentary, and it is based on profession. Got it? It is going to crystallize and become something, a system which is based on birth only during the Mahajanpad period. Hence, later Vedic period is a period of transition. Everything that you feel should become definite will be in a passing stage during the later Vedic period. Alright. So, Varna system, we have 4 Varna. They have different duties. When you talk about Brahmins, they are basically the priestly class and the people who are more into academics and all. Okay. Warrior class, the Kshatriya, their duty is to protect the people and the boundaries of the empire. Okay. That concept will gradually transform into that by the Mahajanpad period. Vaishya are basically those people who are involved in trading, business, agriculture, etc. And when you talk about Shudra, what is the duty of Shudra? They are the servants. They are required to serve the other 3 Varna. However, if one changes their profession, they can change their Varna. And this kind of change was applicable in the later Vedic period. It will become more solid and on the basis of birth only during the Mahajanpad period. It will be very interesting to note, students, that Brahmins are worthy to be given donations. तो इनका काम तो हो गया free. Kshatriya will be tax collector. Shudra is a servant. Naukri hai nahi. Yes? So there is only one Varna which is left, which is Vaishya. Aitriya Brahman is a Brahman which is associated with the Ved, that is Rigved. Okay, we have 2 major Brahmans associated with Rigved, Aitriya Brahman and Taitriya Brahman. Aitriya Brahman states that you are allowed to beat a Vaishya in order to extract tax out of them. Okay, so the only Varna which will be paying tax is the Vaishya. They are taxpayers, they are tax collectors, they are servants and इनको donation मिलेगा. ठीक है? All right. Another concept that emerged in the later Vedic period, students, is popularly known as Gotra. Even in the contemporary times, it's quite popular. In the Hindu culture, it is pointed out that if 2 people, especially a male and female, belong to the same Gotra, they are brothers and sisters. In that context, the term Gotra is used to denote a common ancestor from where your lineage is happening. Gotra term has also been used in Rigved, but this term Gotra in the Rigvedic period was literally used to denote the cow's pen. That is the area in which the cows are kept. But in the later Vedic period, it is going to change. It will instead denote common ancestry. It will instead denote common ancestry. And as a result, what we will be doing? We will practice Gotra exogamy. What is exogamy? Marrying outside one's Gotra. So, can I say that we started practicing Gotra exogamy, but we were practicing Varna endogamy. What is Varna endogamy? What do you mean by that? Within the word. Brahmins will marry Brahmins, Vaishya will marry Vaishya. Okay. So, we are practicing Gotra exogamy, but Varna endogamy. Is there any scientific backing to Gotra exogamy? What? The more diverse the gene pool is, the less likely that you will have any kind of genetic diseases. Okay, so this was the concept. One more when we talk about one more concept which had emerged in the later Vedic period, students, these are the 4 stages of life. Have you heard about them? बताओ. ब्रह्मचार्य, ऑर्डर में बताओ. ब्रह्मचार्य, गृहस्थ, वानप्रस्थ and sannyas. Okay. Do you think that this is an order that needs to be followed, or this is how it is supposed to be followed? It's an order that needs to be followed. Okay. So, I am a Brahman and nobody in my family has seen anything beyond the Grihastha ashram. Has anyone in your family seen that? Also, can somebody stop at brahmacharya only? Can somebody go from brahmacharya to directly sannyasin stage? So it's not necessarily an order that you have to pass through all these stages. Okay, most of us will die on the second stage. Yes, if you plan to go to Vaneprastha, do let me know. Okay, so here students, we see that we have 4 stages of life indeed, in which we have brahmacharya, we have grihastha, we have vanaprastha, and we'll stop here. Why? Because in the later Vedic period, out of the 4 stages, only 3 were known, students. You will have to remember this. Out of the 4 stages, only 3 were known in the later Vedic period, which is brahmacharya, grihastha and vanaprastha. Then you ask me, ma'am, what about the 4th stage? What about the sannyasins? The sannyasins became an integral part of the society only during the Mahajanpad period. In fact, students, it will be very important to note that these sannyasis actually fought against the Brahmanical domination. They were against the rituals. Okay, so this 4th category will be becoming important only during the Mahajanpad period. So if I ask you that the 4th ashram or the sannyasins were known in the later Vedic period, true or false? It's false. ठीक है? Okay. I think 1 or 2 aspects are left. Kindly give me 5-10 minutes extra. We'll complete it here itself. Since the later Vedic period is a sandwich period wherein we are trying to transition. In this transition, one position which is trying to transition very quickly in comparison to others is the Raja. The Raja, by the later Vedic period, students, has become greedy. He has become greedy and he wants to do what? He wants to be a hereditary leader now. Till now, he is a elected leader. इलेक्टेड लीडर है, सभा समिति कंट्रोल करती है इससे, ज्यादा मत बोल. यस, नाउ ही हैज डिजायर ऑफ कॉन्करिंग मोर मटीरियल एलिमेंट्स एंड ही हैज डिजायर ऑफ कॉन्करिंग द पीपल ऑल्सो. एज अ रिजल्ट, द राजा इज ट्राइंग टू मेक हिज पोजिशन हेरिडिटरी. लेट्स से आई एम द राजा, टुमारो आई वेक अप, बढ़िया दिन है, अनाउंसमेंट कर दिया, आज से मेरी पोजिशन हेरिडिटरी. मानेगा कोई? You require what? You require legitimacy to make people believe that you're superior than them. In that context, tomorrow you wake up and you go to your mom and dad and say, I am an IAS officer. Will they agree to it? No. What is the legitimacy for you to say that you're an IAS officer? You need to clear the civil services examination. Right or wrong? Right? In this particular time period, if you want to acquire legitimacy, you will take help of religion, wherein there will be elaborate rituals conducted in your name. And once they are successful, it is said by the priest in front of the community that God has given him power to rule over you. Moreover, such elaborate rituals cannot be conducted by a person who is low in economic stature. अगर आज के टाइम पे भी कोई मेरे को बोले 1 साल का यज्ञ कराना है, रोज ना 10 किलो घी लगेगा, तो पहले मैं बजट बनाऊंगी, ठीक है. ओनली इफ आई कैन परफॉर्म समथिंग लाइक दैट, देन आई विल बी एबल टू डू इट. एंड इन द एंड, इवन इफ इन कंटेम्पररी टाइम्स आई डू अ ह्यूज यज्ञ, ओके, ऑल माई अड़ोसी पड़ोसी विल बी लाइक, पैसा है मैम के पास, बहुत पैसा है. Yes, in contemporary times, you also get legitimacy on the basis of materialism. Yes, you are driving an Alto and then I come in my good decent car, BMW, let's say, है नहीं मेरे पास तो, ठीक है. So, if I come in that, automatically there will be a legitimacy. Oh, she's rich. Okay. So, this legitimacy, if you try to convert it in the ancient period, students, what happens? We get legitimacy on the basis of religion. और 2 जने अपने पास जो हाथ मिलाएंगे, दोनों साथ में जाएंगे, दोनों की पावर डायरेक्टली प्रोपोर्शनल है, एंड दैट इज राजा एंड पुरोहित. द पुरोहित विल गिव रिलीजियस लेजिटिमेसी टू द राजा बाय कंडक्टिंग इलैबोरेट रिचुअल्स, एंड इन दैट कॉन्टेक्स्ट वी हैव 3 मेजर यज्ञ which will be performed by raja individually. Now, do you think the nature of worship has changed? पहले we were doing collective worship. Now there is individual worship. In that context, there are 3 yajna that will be performed by him, which is Ashwamedh, Rajasuya, and Vajpayee. Yes? If you conduct such elaborate rituals, you get religious legitimacy, which will be intertwined with the political legitimacy to rule. In Ashwamedh, what happens, students? It's very interesting. We have a royal horse. That royal horse will be left in a territory which is unclaimed. If nobody stops that horse, and if the horse doesn't die and comes back, then whatever area he has traveled till then will become the territory of the Raja. Then we have Vajpayee. Vajpayee literally translates to chariot race. Who are fighting in this race? We have a chariot of the king, and then we have chariots of the tribe. Now, if the Raja is powerful, automatically the people of the tribe know that even if I am about to win, I will give my horse a break at the boundary. मरना थोड़ी है, ठीक है. So almost always in the Vajpayee sacrifice, who will win? The chariot of the king is going to win. In case it doesn't, and somebody else wins, which is, this means that he is directly challenging the power of the king. And then we have the Rajasuya sacrifice. It's more of a ritual based sacrifice. It's a very elongated procedure. At the end of the Rajasuya sacrifice, it is suggested by the priest that there is divinity, there is divine authorship on this person, and he has a right to rule. These are all elaborate rituals that are used by the Raja to gain political legitimacy. That is why Vedic period cannot be called as something which is secular. Now you understand when you asked me in the Indus Valley period that, ma'am, if there is religion, why cannot you say that it is a religious society? Because I told you that the day-to-day lifestyle is not dominated by religion. Got it? Okay. One more aspect left and then you're free to go. Position of women. 1 second. क्या आगे भी कुछ है क्या? Okay, 2 more things to go and then we are free to go. All right. Position of women. When students, we talk about the position of women in the later Vedic period, it will start to decline gradually. So, there is a decline in the position of women. I have made a statement. What will I do now? I will substantiate it. How? First of all, their right to education has been taken away. Their right to education has been taken away. Soon, the marriageable age will be lowered. By the time, students, you will see that the Mahajanpad period will come. Women will be seen majorly in 3 roles. And that is, if you are a woman and you want to be respected, there are only 3 roles for you, which is of a mother, a daughter, or a wife. Ghar pe raho. Yes, this was the concept. You are not given the right to education. Marriageable age slowly starts to get lower. Okay. Apart from that, you see that they are respected only in 3 domains. That is, if they are a mother, they are a daughter, or if they are a wife. Apart from that, women lost their right to sit in Vedic assemblies. In fact, students, you will see that the Raja, by the end of the later Vedic period, will be successful in making his position hereditary. And after that, the Vedic assemblies will cease to exist. क्या करेंगे असेंबली का? राजा तो मोनार्क बन चुका है, एब्सोल्यूट रूलर है, लेकिन क्या वो एब्सोल्यूट रूलर अभी बन जाएगा? नहीं. He will become an absolute ruler at the end of the later Vedic period and the beginning of the Mahajanpad period. Okay, hence we'll see the rise of kingdoms. Okay, one last point, which is changing gods. When I talk about students changing gods, you will see that the later Vedic period is a transition period. I say it's a transition period, and in that context, I know that the economy is gradually moving towards becoming a settled society. The political structure is gradually moving towards becoming a monarchical system. And in that context, now we are no longer nomadic people who are scared of the natural phenomena. In fact, we are gradually transforming into a settled society, and our focus is on conservation and preservation of our society. Keeping that in mind, you will see that our focus on gods such as Indra will now be much lesser. Instead, we will have new gods emerging, such as Prajapati, who is seen as the creator. Prajapati, who is seen as the creator. Right now, we are in a transformative state. We are creating a new kind of society for ourselves. It will be based on material wealth. It will be based on stability. It will be based on a mix of agriculture and trade. Keeping that in mind, in order to settle yourself in one area, you need to have a changing pantheon of God that will make you believe in the concept of preservation and staying at one place instead of moving. Okay. Hence, we see that Indra lost its importance and Prajapati, the creator, became even more prominent. Apart from that, we have one more god, that is Pushan. Pushan, students, will become a very popular god of the Shudra. He will become a very popular god with respect to Shudra. Shudra are not allowed to participate after the later Vedic period into the affairs of the other 3 Varna. Hence, when we talk about Shudra, their popular god will be Pushan. If we talk about his main powers, then he is the god of animals. Vishnu is a minor deity in this time period. Vishnu is a minor deity in this time period associated with fertility and fortune. Associated with fertility and fortune. It's very interesting to understand the manner in which the gods had developed. There are multiple stories with respect to each and every god, and in fact there are local traditions which are combined all together to make a bigger god. For instance, when we talk about Shiv, he has so many names, and these so many names are nothing but many cultures ka combination which is done to give it a face, which is Shiva. Alright, so we see that the importance of Indra is lessened. Prajapati and Pushan are becoming important gods. Vishnu is a minor deity. In fact, in Rig Veda, we also find the term Rudra, which is associated later with Shiva, but right now he is a minor god. So, Rudra is also a minor deity. Minor माने ज़्यादा पॉपुलर नहीं है, ठीक है? These are your changing gods. Why are we changing our pantheon? Because the society is transforming from being a nomadic pastoral society towards a settled agrarian society. ठीक है? Nature of worship की बात करूं तो कुछ change आ रहा है क्या? What is the change, students? Materialism. अच्छा, ऋग्वेदिक लोग यज्ञ करते हुए बोलते हैं मेरे को सद्बुद्धि और मोक्ष दे दो. When they were doing community worship, collective worship, do you think they were asking for moksha? Did I tell you that anywhere? Don't imagine and assume stuff. They were very materialistic. They were doing all the rituals to get more cattle. In fact, there will be a reaction in the later Vedic period against materialism. The only difference is that there we had community worship, here we have independent worship. I think I have repeated this point like 1 lakh times. Have I? Okay, so you better judge your listening power also. There's only one thing with respect to the change in the nature of worship, wherein first it was a collective spirit and right now we have focus upon individual yajna. And who is doing most of the yajna? King is doing it. Yes? Okay. So, changing gods is done. There is one more aspect to it, students, which is priestly domination ke against reaction. We'll do that tomorrow. Right now, you just do one question and then we are good to go. So, Rigvedic period, we don't really get question. This is also from like 2010 or something. And look at the question also, by the way. पहले तो ये समझ में आ गया ना, ये लिखा क्या है? What is this? यज्ञ. Okay? Yes, online students. Yes. Correct. It's C. This is one question. Apart from that, we had one question which was in comparison to Harappan civilization that we had done already. Apart from that, we have not got any questions from the Vedic period. But the key points that you will remember will be on the basis of how the king is trying to become hereditary and how it will lead to the formation of empires. Okay? The answer is worship of nature and yajna. Alright. If you have any doubts, feel free to ask. Okay, my online students, now you can ask questions. What exactly is done in Rajasuya? So I have never performed it, to be honest. I just know it's an elaborate ritual and it conferred divinity on the person who had done it. Black burnished ware, it's nothing, it's a type of pottery. In the later Vedic period, the worship was more of stability gods. The pantheon was changing because our lifestyle was changing. Since we were trying to become a settled community, the characteristics of gods which resonated with our current lifestyle is something that were incorporated in the pantheon. Difference between Gramani and Senani. When I say Gramani students is the head of fighting hoods. Okay, it is the head of fighting hordes because we don't have a standing army. So you will collect people on the occasion of a battle. Apart from that, when I talk about Senani, Senani is those people who incorporate some kind of military skill. They are strong people in the society. Beta people seal, atre people seal. People worship. Yes, Mohammed, Upanishads we'll talk tomorrow. We are already late. That's why there's a Brahmanical reaction that's going to happen, and then Upanishads will be compiled. So you're free to go if no questions. Okay. It's the northernmost outpost, northernmost site over the Panchal. And why did they start moving? Panchal is also a Rigvedic tribe, and these people started migrating towards the eastern area. Why do we migrate? We migrate for better opportunities, and keeping that in mind, we settled in the Doab region during the later Vedic period. What else? Vidhata is also a assembly beta. It is the oldest assembly of Vedic people. It has multiple functions: religious, social. Meaning of structure covered 5 kilometer circuit. It's the area, geographical area covered by them beta. What else? हाँ जी आप बताओ. नहीं उसमें एनिमल सैक्रिफाइस वाला एक मिनट बेटा. Hopscotch is a game of Pelduj, and yesterday's question I've personally sent to you on Telegram. All right, I'll check it. Okay. Okay. One second. Aranyak is forest books. It's a kind of so Aranyak students are forest books. I hope I'm audible now. Number one, and in this we find philosophical inquiries. The region is same, Bhavna. All right. Any more questions? Thank you. Thank you, guys.